All right, I'm installing a ductless heat pump, aka a Minisplit. This is a Mitsubishi Hyperheat. It's a 2-ton unit, 3 zones. So there's 1 outdoor unit, 3 indoor heads. I'm gonna split this up into a couple different videos. So this video is all about installing the outdoor unit. Let's go. So the first step is to figure out what you're gonna mount this thing on. You can either pour a concrete pad or you can buy one of these pre-made pads, which is made out of plastic or fiberglass. I'm going to have this thing in place for a long time, so I don't mind taking a little bit of extra work and effort and pouring a concrete pad for this thing. To figure out the size of the pad, I need to figure out how big the stand is. Now, some people set these directly on a concrete pad, and if you're in an area where you don't get any snow and, it's not super dusty or there's, not critters running around or anything, that's probably fine. But where I'm at, I got to deal with a couple feet of snow in the winter. We don't want this thing getting buried. And also just having it off the ground eliminates a little bit of environmental factors that this thing might see, either with, mice trying to crawl around on it or getting kicked or a dog running into it or something else like that. So I went ahead and bought this stand. It's adjustable. So I had to get my outdoor unit, the heat pump itself, and figure out how wide the feet are on that thing in order to size the stand to match those mounting points. And then once I had the stand width figured out, then I could size my pad, form it up, and start pouring concrete. All right, so I've got my concrete thickened edge slab poured. It's more like a concrete block at this point, but it's just, I wanted to get it below the frost line so I don't have to deal with frost heave, especially right next to the house where there's going to be some additional water runoff. I wanted to make sure that thing is below the frost line. So got that back filled in with dirt now. I'm going to bring in some construction road base, which is what I like to use at the bottom. It's like 2.5 inch minus. And then we'll dress it over the top with some 3/4 minus. So I let this slab sit for about 3 weeks before I started drilling holes in it. If you drill in it sooner than that, the concrete's just too green and it can chip and spall out pretty badly. After that, I centered the stand in the middle of the slab, marked my holes, drilled them out, and used 3-inch Tapcons to secure it. This was the scariest part of this whole operation. So I strapped the outdoor unit to the forks on the tractor and then very carefully drove it over into position. I was able to get it right next to and then slightly above the stand, so with the help of my wife, we lifted it off and then placed it on the stand. This thing weighs about 200 pounds, so it's not crazy heavy, but it's definitely something you can't do on your own. In terms of electrical requirements for the outdoor unit, the Mitsubishi install manual was pretty clear on what to use. So for my unit, which is this 3C24, that's the 24K unit, maximum fuse size or maximum overcurrent protection device needs to be no larger than 40 amps, and the minimum current ampacity is 31.5. You'll round this up to the nearest standard size, which would be 35. So I think I could use either a 35 or a 40 amp breaker here. I decided to go with a 40, which matches up with the power supply cable that they specifies a minimum of 8 gauge for the power supply cable and also for the ground wire. Up here, this is connecting wires. This is what goes from the outdoor unit back to your indoor unit. And for those, you need 14 gauge. We'll get to that in the next video. Okay, I'm not gonna film too much of the attic stuff because it's just hard to see and it's so hard to film up here. But what I have going on is I've run my cable all the way from the panel up into the attic, all the way across, basically to the other side of the house, which is a long run, but it allows some of my line sets with gas and liquid refrigerant to be shorter. Basically, here's my cable. I've come over here to the edge of the house. This is the gable end of the wall. This is the gable truss. This is a nailer right here, this 2x6 for sheetrock. And right under here, which is what this truss is sitting, is the top plate. So you can see I just drilled through there. It's two 2x6s. And I'm gonna fish my cable down through there and see if I can find it on the other side, which might be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna pop out and drill the hole on the outside of the house now. Well, incredibly, with my wife helping, she was able to find this thing as I fished it down from the attic and pull it out, which was a little bit of a shot in the dark maneuver. But this nail line right here, this is one of the vertical wall studs, and then there's another one right here. So I knew where those studs were. I drilled in between them up above, measured out the distance it would be to get to this hole, and then started fishing it down, and luckily we were able to find it and pull it out. So here I'm installing a disconnect. So code requires these devices to have a local way to cut power, not just being able to flip the breaker back at the service panel. So I chose a non-fused disconnect for this, and I sized it at 60 amps, which is higher than the breaker, but that's okay because this disconnect is not providing overcurrent protection device that's happening at the breaker. And if this thing pulls over 40 amps, I want that breaker to flip and not fire off my disconnect. This is just a way to locally cut power. I'm also installing a surge protection device into the disconnect box, which will help protect my brand new and very expensive heat pump in case there's lightning or some kind of other weird surge through the grid. So now I've got power coming from my 40 amp breaker in the main panel down to my disconnect. In this situation, there's a ground, but there's no neutral, and there are two hot wires because we're dealing with 240 volt system here. So you can see I've marked the white wire with black electrical tape to indicate that it's hot. This shot shows everything connected. So I got power coming in, power coming out with the surge protection device installed. It looks like a bit of a mess because I actually had to pigtail into the load side of the disconnect. Let me show you what I mean. This is the installation instructions for the surge protection. So this is your disconnect right here. These two center terminals are the line side and the outside terminals are the load. This is what goes to your equipment. This is also the side where the surge protection device gets wired in. These terminals are only rated for one wire, so don't double tap them by putting the wire from the surge protector directly into this terminal. Instead, you pigtail them. So this is the pigtail right here. Obviously, the surge protection wire comes into this junction point, and so do the wires that then exit and go out to your equipment. From here, it's pretty simple. Use some liquid tight conduit to get over to your outdoor unit. Crimp on a couple of round terminal connectors, connect your two lines and your ground. In the next video, I'll talk about how to install the indoor units.